Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the board work session. This is on the charter school applications for 2020-2021. I believe we just have one presentation for this evening, and I'm actually just going to turn this over to Ms. Alvarez, who is the Executive Director for New Initiatives, who is going to tell us about how we're working today and introduce our presenters.
Good evening, everybody. So we are at the stage of a work session for our applicants for this round of charter applications. Um, Before I get into just kind of reminding us of like the timeline and the process, um, I want to have Trevor Roberts on my staff who leads this work introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. This is Trevor Roberts. I'm a specialist in the Office of New Initiatives.
Secondly, I want to thank the applicant, everybody that participates in this process. It takes a lot of work and chutzpah in a certain sense to put together a charter application and to go through this very rigorous process that we're in the midst of. And so there's like a lot of thought and commitment and people's energy and desire to serve the students of our city that goes into this work. So I just want to start off by just thanking the applicants as well as our charter and operator-led schools advisory board, whose advice is important in this process and informing the CEO's thinking. And so it's a time-intensive process with lots of well-meaning people putting their best thoughts and efforts. So I just want to thank everybody for their work and just kind of acknowledge that at the start. We kicked off the official process. If we can go to the timeline, we kicked off the official process on at the September 22nd board meeting in terms of just announcing the recommendations. Applications had been turned into us in August, and so we had gone through the first initial stages of the review. Tonight, this is the opportunity for the applicants to present themselves to you directly as the board, as well as to take questions from you. We will, in a minute, share the CEO's preliminary recommendation. So we've adjusted the process a bit so that we now, in this process, share the recommendation at this work session. So we will share that initial recommendation, which could be, changed based on the work session up until the day of the vote, and then you as board members will vote on October 27th. I'm going to go to the next slide. And so the application before us is from Baltimore Curriculum Project to convert Pimlico Elementary Middle School into a charter school. BCP has been working with the Pimlico community for 2 years. They focus on direct instruction, math programs, core knowledge. They've submitted an application that has gone through that initial kind of review with the charter and operator-led schools advisory board and with the CEO's administrative review. And the recommendation is to approve the application. There's a lot of strengths in this application. This is a known operator who's done consistent good work within our district. Is shown through in the application. It's shown through in the interview with the advisory board. And so that's what the current recommendation is. So with that, I don't want to take too much time. I actually now want to turn it over to our applicants to kind of talk to you directly. And I'm going to encourage them they can go ahead and to turn on their videos so that you and members of the public can see their faces. Trevor, is there any thing that you want to point out about, is there any things the board should be looking at?
No, there aren't any supplemental materials or anything.
Okay, perfect. Right now. All right, so with that said, I'm going to invite Laura and the team to come up and talk to you guys.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Doherty with the Baltimore Curriculum Project, And we are going to start our presentation tonight with Principal Warren. Know many of you as Principal Barnett, but she was recently and is in the process of transitioning to Principal Warren. So with that, Principal Warren, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us tonight. I really just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experience so far with BCP and why I supported becoming a conversion charter. I joined Pimlico in December of 2018. Since then, the enrollment has increased from 440 students to now 668 currently. And with that increase, suspensions have decreased down to 2%. BCP started working with us last summer. They first facilitated an early PD for our staff where we introduced restorative practices, team building, and behavior de-escalation. This was a time for us all to get together and reset Pimlico last fall. We had a brand new staff. The majority, I would say over 50% of the staff was new. So with that, in just that time, our suspensions did decrease. The restorative practices training was not just come and we have one session. They were ongoing sessions during the year. And the coaches actually formed relationships with the teachers where they were able to have, anytime they had a suggestion and they needed help, there was somebody always there to help them to implement the restorative practices, which helped to, increase add to our positive climate. The BCP is supported with the hiring of staff down to our community school coordinator. Only had to hire, didn't have to hire, I think only had to hire one instructional position this year, which was great because the staff stayed and they believe in the mission and the vision. The staff in February voted 45-1 for BCP. So there is very strong support for the application. They also, BCP also hosted a restorative practices night for parents. And with that, community members also came so they could see what restorative practices was about. They were able to ask questions and they were really pleased with what was going on. One of my proudest moments was we piloted one of the reading programs, the direct instruction program with the middle school self-contained class, well, special education class. There were students in that class that were pre-primer reading level. And within a few months, they were reading at second grade level. So just to see that progress, just to see the students come up to me and say, look, Ms. Barnett, look, and ready to read to me and everything, and to see the pride in them in just a few months really had me sold on that process and the focus on the reading skills and just to see that progress. I'm looking forward to the continued support for coaching with the reading and language curriculum, the coaching support, restorative practices, helping the teachers gain more knowledge in that and passing on to the students where they're becoming more facilitators of circles and everything. We're also looking forward to, the expertise, the targeted PD that BCP provides. They work with me and the staff to see what it is that we actually want. And that's also another support. The grants, many of the grants that are written are in support. So right now we already have expanded middle school athletics. We're working on expanding the arts program, and we have a beautiful building, just hired a new music teacher with plenty of experience. Really want to see the arts program really pull off, and we're looking at grants for that as well. And then clubs. We want to have clubs for the students so that students of all interests know that there's a place for them. We want to embrace that community, make all of our students feel safe for whoever they are and what they represent. So that's very important to us. And most importantly, to raise achievement and to build a supportive community.
Thank you, Principal Warren. Next, we'll hear from the PTO president, Miss Jackie Gamble.
Hello, everyone. I visited City Springs School. I was happy and delighted to see the students learning and being engaged with their teachers. It took me back to my childhood, knowing that it provided me with structure and a positive outlook on life, a positive outlook for the future. I was in tears. I just could not stop crying because I was just so happy to have that experience of seeing children learning and being engaged. Should Pimlico become a charter school, our students will develop into productive citizens in the world in which they live and thrive in. And the environment was so peaceful and it had a calmness to it. I could tell that the staff cared about the students. Being a charter school would be great for our students for the engagement and the environment. And I know they would benefit from it.
Thank you, Ms. Gamble. This is Angela Alvarez just chiming in for a second. Believe it or not, we've reached the 4 minutes. It goes pretty fast.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I'm done.
I would like to, if it's okay, this is Laura, have Khalik Sims, who's the Director of Education for Park Heights Renaissance, have a couple of minutes.
We unfortunately, we can't do that,
Okay.
but I think the board will ask you questions, and so through that you may be able to have people answer questions and how you direct people.
That's fine. Thank
So
you.
at this point, we have to turn it over to the board.
Okay.
I'm gonna just say for board members, if you have questions that you would like to ask, please just identify yourselves. It might be good if you use the raise your hand symbol, just so I can trying to check through who's on the line, but just as a assistance for me, if you would. So are there any questions? Is that Commissioner Bondima?
Hi, thank you. And thank you. I appreciate you guys presenting tonight. I think I missed something in the beginning. Ms. Barnett, you're the principal at the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. How long have you been there?
December of 2018.
18, okay. Thank you.
Almost 2 years now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other? Excuse me, Commissioner Roberts?
Good evening. In our documents, we have listed that you all have, I'm sorry, I had a complete lapse of memory. I have to go through my notes. Oh, okay, so could you all speak to your career and readiness plans for students outside of the health pathway?
Yes, absolutely.
Good evening.
Go ahead, John.
This is John McGill. Laura, can I take this one?
Of course, yes.
Good evening, commissioners. Appreciate your time. Thank you. I think there's probably a 10-point program at least for our college and career readiness. First of all, we're going to introduce Leaders Go Places, which is a program we've used for the last 5 years at Hampstead Hill. A major part of that program is to speak with students about college and career readiness, to talk about the application programs, to talk about high school readiness, to talk about course selection for high school, and perhaps most importantly, to arrange visits to colleges and universities around the country, especially in the Northeast. We will introduce students to our existing relationships at Morgan State and Coppin State, Loyola, Goucher, Hopkins, Towson University, other local and regional institutions. We've already established connections with most of those, and those will be the primary sites for arranging for students to visit and meet with professors. We want to introduce a middle grades curriculum development where we actually use our existing faculty at Pimlico courses, especially in the social studies and ELA realm, so that we can have some character building and other aspects of college and career readiness, decision making, teaching kids how decisions get made and how to enhance their own decision making. We want to create a speaker program for middle school especially, but including grades 4 and 5. The notion amongst college counselors is that you can never talk enough about college and career with youngsters. There's an optimum time to do that, but it's really never too early to start, especially for students whose parents may not have had college experiences themselves. We are certainly going to make the guidance counselor and the guidance office at Pimlico a central part of the school life. That's a very important component of our plans. We want to ensure that through the curriculum, students have a lot of opportunity to read and write, especially writing persuasive essays and narratives so that they prepare for high school and they're ready for that platform that's going to prepare them further for college and career. We're going to talk a lot through restorative circles about college and career. We're going to provide workshops for parents because we believe that parents have to be fully involved. We want to have financial workshops for parents. We want to have workshops for parents in the application process so that they're not daunted by the sometimes very tedious bureaucracy that accompanies college and university admissions. We're going to use partnerships from the local community and from the city and the state. Park Heights Renaissance will be a key part of that, but other partners that BCP has developed over the last decade or more will be involved in that. And we're also finally going to plan to reach out to potential donors who might want to sponsor students for college, knowing that one of the issues and one of the obstacles for students might be financial. So that's an outline of some of our plans for college and career readiness. Commissioner Roberts, is there a follow-up? Does that help?
I'm sorry, my unmute is always delayed. Thank you for your answer.
Thanks for
Could I just ask,
thanks for the question. It's important.
This is Linda Chinya. Could I ask for just a little bit more in terms of, or is there, let me put it this way, what will be the type of exploration activities that you might do for students? Most of what I heard was a focus around the college end of college and career. What types of things might happen in terms of preparation for those students that might look towards the career end after high school?
Well, of course, some of that, Commissioner, is going to take place through the new health program, which of course will only address a percentage of the students in the middle school. But at all of our other schools, our other 2 middle schools that exist now, we have career days. So we'll certainly bring in the local community to talk with kids and with parents about career options, putting a range of options in front of kids. We certainly want to prepare them for that high school experience where, for example, if they go to Cristo Rey, they're going to actually from 9th grade on have a day a week where they're going to go to a workplace. So we want to prepare them for that experience as well, given that that'll be one of their high school options. So I think the career readiness is going to be a part of the program primarily through those career days and early introduction of a vast range of careers that are open for youngsters. And some of that will take place in the guidance counselor's office where we promote the existing programs in our high schools, such as Mergenthaler, where there's clearly a good career preparation program in existence. Laura, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, Pimlico is special in its location, and there are a lot of wonderful resources around it. Sinai being one, and that partnership is already well underway. We're close to TV Hill. Pimlico, the brand new building has a TV station, a TV studio in it, and we will explore mentorship opportunities and apprenticeship opportunities with one of the numerous stations on TV Hill. We're close to the zoo. There might be some opportunities to explore career options at the zoo and different programs we might be able to get going just by nature of our location. And I'm sure Principal Barnett and Ms. Sims would have other ideas on local partners that could really introduce our kids to the world of work.
Good, thank you.
This is Bundima. Can I speak? It's okay?
Go ahead.
I have to ask, sometimes I ask questions and you've already addressed the questions, but my mind speeds past quickly. And so the principal might be able to answer this. In the state that the country's in and the world is in right now, we find that it is absolutely critical, and I use critical a lot, so you might hear me use critical too much, that we put as much emphasis as possible on science, biotechnology, and very early. I don't think I heard too much about what you're going to be doing in science. You are lucky to have a location that's not too far from you. One thing, you have a hospital, that's Sinai Hospital, that's very close by, developing a partnership, and that can be done with Sinai Hospital, just like the Hopkins have a partnership with our schools. But you're also in 5 miles, not 5, maybe 10 miles away from Baltimore City Community College, and they have health science programs, and they are noted for bringing in middle school students, partnering with their science, biotech department at the Harbor and at Liberty. And we can't, I'd like to hear more about what you're going to be doing in that area when you talk about career goals. We need to introduce our students to as much science and health science programs as possible in the early stages to get their interest in going into our areas of science and health science. I'd like to hear from the principal maybe what your plans are in your curriculum related to the sciences, the STEM programs, and how you plan to partner with different groups around the city of Baltimore. But more specifically, you have an advantage of being close to Baltimore City Community College. And we really, really hope that, I really hope that you take full advantage of that.
Well, we actually are the first school in Baltimore City who has partnership with LifeBridge Health to have the middle grades health science program. Okay. And it was launched just this year. So it was launched virtually, and that program has its own curriculum. It's a cohort of students that start in 6th grade, and they will advance to 7th and 8th. It'll be that same cohort. So new one will come every year. So our first cohort has just started in the 6th grade science class. That curriculum is very advanced. Only those students get that curriculum. They apply to the program. It's not like it's a lottery or anything. It's their interest. The application really just expressed their interest and showing parent support. With that, beyond the pandemic, the students would actually go to Sinai. There'll be trips there. Right now, virtually, there's been a number of videos from the different people in the different careers at Sinai who they videotape themselves in their career. They've talked about why they're doing their job, what brought them to it, what actually they do in their career and what it means to them. And that's a part of the units, and those videos get shown to the students. If it wasn't a virtual world, they would actually be hearing them in person. So it's really a great program. There's a pinning ceremony that would happen when we're in person. The students are really enjoying it, and the teachers, it was one of our teachers from the school and some from other schools that actually formed the curriculum. It is a credit-bearing course for us. So those students actually have an extra class in their schedule. So they're very committed. I'm pleased to hear that about BCCC because I didn't know about that program. So I know that we can link in. We do have a partnership with them, and that's the GED program for our parents. That's the partnership we have with BCCC. So I will flag that though for our science teacher, just to see if there's any more curriculum they can get from that program. But the program has actually been almost 3 years in the making, and this was our launch this year. And visiting the classroom, the students, they love it. They love what they're seeing and what they're learning.
And yes. I'll just add, if I may, sorry to interrupt. Right now it's scheduled for 25 students, and we worked really hard to fill that 25 student class. We blanketed the zone with flyers and information and had informational calls. If demand grows, we will offer it to more students. If it becomes a popular course and 50 kids want it or 40 kids want it, we can expand it. Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to add one more thing to this. All of the colleges and universities want to see charter schools, traditional schools to partner with. These colleges and universities, and I hope you don't miss out on this, it'd be good. These colleges and universities are anxious to put a middle school K through 8 in their grants. They are always anxious to do that. And you have a great opportunity to join in with these schools if you reach out to them. It's not difficult, and it will not only help the students, with the staff, partner with the teachers, of course, the principal, and including that, you might even want, since BCCC and Loyola is right up the street as well, you might consider putting those one person from, if everything goes well, one person from Loyola or one person from a community college, and even Coppin. If you consider putting these universities on your board, you have a strong opportunity to get funding. So I'm saying this now, and I'm hoping that you're hearing what I'm saying. It's happening with other schools in other counties, but I am sure that they will be anxious to join to put to the success of a new charter school. So
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner,
That's a great-
this is John McGill. One of the advantages of having been in business for a while and having 5 other schools is we've established contacts and connections with many of the institutions you mentioned. And I would add that not only in the biotech field, but in the environmental field, that's another area that we want to expose our kids to. And we've got existing relationships there with the Audubon Society, with Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and other such organizations, so that we can add the environmental piece to what we put in front of our youngsters for future projects and future careers.
yeah, well, you have a short distance from Silburn that I'm naming partners that could join in with you that's in 3 to 5 miles away. And
Yep.
Silburn Arboretum is just a wonderful place, and I'm sure that you are familiar with it, Mrs. Burnett.
Yeah.
Silburn, I'm sure you must be. But these people are, and I'm going to let you go, but these people are anxious, and they're looking for you to lead them into working with them, partnering with them. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the Silburn Community Association actually donated Chromebooks to us already. So I've been communicating with them, and they are just excited, very excited.
Okay.
Commissioner McFadden, I think you had your hand up next. I think Commissioner Chin, you might be frozen.
Thanks. I was waiting on her to recognize me, Commissioner Chinya. I hope it's okay if you can hear. Seems like she is frozen. But this could be for Angela, our ED, or Trevor. Could you just briefly talk about the difference with a traditional charter versus the conversion school?
Yep, sure. A newly created charter school is like a new idea, that is looking at a new community to be part of. When you have a conversion, what the applicant is applying to do is to work with an existing school community. They continue to serve that same school community. So for students who live in the neighborhood, they enroll just like they did, as a traditional school. So for the students who live in the zone, there is no difference in how you enroll. They don't have to apply. They don't have to do any of that because it's a neighborhood conversion school. The other thing that becomes a little bit different is for the out of zone. So for out of zone students, those students would have to apply, and it is based on seats. So just like with traditional schools, the conversion school has to serve the students who live in the zone first. And if they have additional capacity for out of zone, then those seats are lotteried off.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for everyone that was here, because the community, the Park Heights, that Pimlico area community has such a rich history, very rich culture. And it's critically important that any school, program, or organization that is in that particular community understands the unique needs of that community, and how we have to get to a place of collaboration and partnership to really see that community revitalize. And we start that with young people, I believe that, and with our education system. So I would love to hear a bit more, even from Ms. Gamble, our parent. And I know that we have community folks that are present. I want to know specifically, if I have to ask a question, how has the community been engaged in the process of developing this application? What is the pulse of the community, and why does this particular community feel that this conversion would benefit the Pimlico and the Park Heights community where the school is located?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, I'll take that question as a representative of the community development organization that's been
Ms.
working.
Sims?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. That's a perfect question, because today, as we were just really thinking about all of the things that BCP has done in partnership with Park Heights Renaissance as a community development organization, the list just continued to grow. Park Heights Renaissance, as you know, is a community development organization that believes that stronger communities are created through stronger schools. So our work, my role there is Director of Education Programs, and we have 5 community schools, Pimlico Elementary Middle being one of our premier schools, and as you said, a premier historic Baltimore neighborhood. And so we believe at PHR that our entire community development program revolves around, in many ways, the strength of our 5 community schools, with Pimlico being very much at the center of that rebirth for the entire neighborhood. And already Baltimore Curriculum Project has been extremely hands-on with our community school strategy. They helped us to hire the community school coordinator who's currently in place at Pimlico, who is a Park Heights Renaissance employee. They supported our Park Heights Renaissance YouthWorks program, which goes back to the question earlier about career and workforce development and supporting young people in preparation for careers. This summer, they helped to underwrite that existing project. And one of the things that we really like about BCP is that they really do work with the existing community. As you said, Commissioner McFadden, they talked to us about what existed already in terms of our Park Heights education strategic plan. They spoke with us about how they could support and come alongside us in that, as opposed to coming in with like their own agenda, and in so many ways have really been very specific about how can we offer support in the areas that you see as the most significant needs, whether it's STEM. So we have an existing, going back to STEM a little bit, we have an existing partnership with Girl Scouts of Central Maryland called Girls Rise in Park Heights, which is a STEM-based program that offers robotics as well as financial literacy and entrepreneurship training for girls in Park Heights. And Pimlico is one of the schools, as well as Arlington and Creative City and Edgecombe Elementary, who benefit from that program. BCP has come and talked to us about how they can support that. So I just think in so many ways they have been at the table with the community, particularly with Park Heights Renaissance and all the work that we're doing in all of our community schools, but specifically Pimlico, and making our schools stronger so that our community is stronger.
Thank you. I want to apologize. Did you have something else, Commissioner McFadden?
I do, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I wanted to know a little bit more. I see the academic plan, but I want to make sure that someone is able to highlight. I appreciate that, though, Ms. Sims. I appreciate you bringing those comments. I want to hear a little bit more about the co-curricular programming at Pimlico. I know that Principal Warren, you talked about the arts and that state-of-the-art facility that you have. But in addition to some of the things that are listed, I saw very little information about co-curricular programming and the arts. So can you speak to that a little bit? Or someone?
Yes, I was saying, so the arts program is what we're trying to build. We had a drama teacher where there were few performances. We just hired a music teacher who worked with young audiences, who is ready to engage. Even one of the parents had called me and said, a middle school parent called me and said that her student likes music, her child likes music, and she was kind of shocked. She was like, that music teacher is great. So we're trying to build a full arts program. Been talking with BCP about getting grants to get some more instruments. We have the vocal music room, we have the room for band. So that is what we are trying to build, get more funding to get some of those instruments going, and so we can have a full comprehensive program. The students, right now, last year, like I said, we had Christmas programming, the basics with the singing and everything, but I really want to have a full comprehensive program where there's after school time to practice and where we can perform, go out to different places and venues and really celebrate the arts, because as we all know, arts are very important. It's an expression. We see many students who may not accelerate in other ways, they accelerate in arts, which helps them academically. So arts is a passion of mine that I really want to see enhanced in the school.
Absolutely, and we know that the arts certainly helps to engage young people in ways, to your point, that they may not have been engaged in prior to that. So I appreciate you raising that up, and also being true to the culture and the history of the Park Heights Pimlico community, right? How can community-based organizations and folks that are in that community already serving as artists in several different ways? I know in that community, because I don't live far away from the school, there are all of these local drum lines that are very big in the community. So my brain is just thinking, when you talk about the arts, it's exciting to talk about it, but it would be great to actually see it translated effectively into a school program. I also want to know a little bit more about your organizational structure and how the organizational structure will support an ease of transition with the conversion, if that makes sense. So I see a combination of a director of academics, you have an ED, and you also still would have a principal. But can you just talk a little bit about how the organizational structure will work, specifically in terms of smooth transition in the event that the charter is voted on, if we approve it?
Well, right now, it would basically be the same as how we're working right now. One of the best things about BCP is they're coming to enhance. They're not coming to take over and change. It's about enhance. So from day one, it's always been, how can I support? I have this idea. I have this person. I have this speaker. Here's this program. It's about enhancing. So it's always starts with a discussion with usually Laura, John, and I will speak. Now we also have a new assistant principal will be in those conversations as well. And we just talk about the different areas we're focusing on, whether it's PD, whether it's instruction, whether it's restorative practice, whatever we're to focus on. And then among the staff, there's leads for different areas. So it's already happening. So I don't really see a transition being difficult at all, because we've already been working together very closely.
Okay. I'll just add, if I might, that we really do see our role as principal support. And we have a few things that are very important to us, and some of it's the curriculum and restorative practices, but we recognize that all of our schools have a history, they have strengths, they have areas of improvement. And so when we partner with the school, we really do it with an attitude of, what do you need? Here's what we here's what has to be in place for us: direct instruction reading, restorative practices. People have to be willing to be coached in the classroom. Everything else, most things are really school-based decision making, and all of our schools look a little different because of that. And that's one of the more enjoyable aspects, I believe, is coming into a community to enhance and not dictate a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, this is John McGill. Commissioner, I would add,
You're on mute, John.
this is John McGill. We work with 5 principals already. If we were micromanagers, they wouldn't.
Keeps going.
I don't know why I can't get unmuted. We have a reputation for not micromanaging, but a good reputation for providing support and being in constant touch with the administration and the staff. I think that we've already, over the past 14 months, developed a good relationship with the staff. Laura and I have been present at staff meetings since last August. We're providing a staff training on Monday the 12th on the issue of trauma, specifically as it refers to the African American community. We train our new teachers with an emphasis on knowing the history of Baltimore. We did some summer training this year on issues such as race and housing. We've learned about our communities long before we went into them, and we encourage our staff in our schools and our administrators to know the history of Baltimore, to know the history of Park Heights in this case, and to value that history for what it's achieved, and to understand and know the needs of the community as defined by the community and not by BCP. One last thing I'd say, your question about the arts is a good one. One of our successes at Govans and Frederick Elementary, our 2 most recent schools, has been that we promised to enhance the arts program in general, because neither of those schools had a flourishing arts program. And I think we've accomplished that in the 4 or 5 years that we've had those schools. We brought drama, we brought musical presentations. The kids do dramatic presentations and musicals every year at Govans, and we want that for Pimlico as well.
Commissioner Sykes and Commissioner James, I see where you had your hands raised. I want to be certain that you can get your questions in. Commissioner Sykes.
Good evening, everyone. So yes, I did have pretty much. I'm not too familiar with when it comes to special education within charter schools. So my question probably would be, what practices or what supports do we have to support the students who are in special education, and also those students who may not learn or may learn a little different than the other students within the school building?
Well, definitely, I believe in providing all the support special education. I actually, even this year, used some of my Fair Student funding money to add another special educator, because I didn't want the class sizes being too large, and I didn't want the caseloads being too large. So I did that, and I used that to add in the temporary support to help the IEP chair. So I'm very supportive, very important that all children have the opportunity to learn, because all children can learn. So we have actually in our network, we have some of the best special educators. We've been highlighted in our network because we work towards students being in their least restrictive environment. We like to see we encourage that. We bring the parents in, not just for IEP meetings, we're having conversations. Our school is actually having in-person learning right now for middle school special education self-contained, because we know how critical that is. It's a lot to be learning at home. And we needed our teachers, 2 of our teachers actually volunteered, and they're like, I need them here. It's too hard, it's frustrating, I need the kids here. So that program is, it started last week, we have 15 students. So special education is very important. Any type of resource that we need, I make sure we order and we have. The teachers are trained. We're, like I said, we're very Premier with our special educators. I'm fortunate to have a great group of special educators who are really committed to our students. It was very important when I hired them that's what they brought to the table. They always come to me with innovative ideas to add on to the program.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner James?
Thank you. Actually, Ms. Timms answered my first question. So my second question is probably for Angela or Trevor. What is the maximum seat capacity should they grow to the building's capacity? And what are the impacts of that on, say, Edgecombe or other schools that are in the geographic area?
So we are actually the only middle school in Park Heights. So all those Edgecombe, Arlington, there's no more MLK. MLK is with middle schools with us. So all those schools already, they feed to us. That's there for middle school. They do keep their elementary students. In certain situations, there are parents who may want their children, elementary and middle, to be in the same building, but we don't want to take from other schools. So we do work hard for that. I had the benefit that I was at Arlington, so I know that community well. The parents' families, they know me, so when they come to Pimlico, they're very happy to see me. The capacity, building capacity, I believe, is 786. And the middle school is large. It's almost the same as the elementary. However, middle school is actually run like a traditional middle school because there are 4 sections per grade where the students have a different teacher for math, science, ELA, and social studies. So I think it enhances the middle grade science program. I believe will attract more students. But right now, even our elementary school, our class sizes are still a decent size. There's, I want to say, even right now, I think for 3rd grade, we only have 4th grade, we have like 33 students in 3rd grade. So we still have room. And there's not any classes that are overcrowded right now. And that's with, it's 6, what was that? I just pulled the count. It was 668 for the enrollment right now.
And that's wonderful that you're at that space. My question is more considering the impact if other students leave other schools to come to Pimlico. Will we end up closing a school in the neighborhood because of that?
So that was part of when we did the working like with Edgecombe and everything. That is we're not trying to elementary. They're still to stay in their zone schools. We're not taking those students. We want to keep the schools where they are, and only the middle school would be the feeder. So most of those students, they are staying in their zone schools. So I'm not sure if you're asking because they see it's charter, that may attract them. But I think in the neighborhoods in Park Heights, they still like the same. They stick with where they are in their zone. They're used to those elementary schools and those communities. And then when it comes to middle school, they just bridge to middle school. So I don't see that being a problem because the students, they're staying in their zone schools for elementary.
This is Angela. Just to add on to that, that we're always looking, at all of our schools to make sure that they're staying healthy. We've, made a number of changes in the Park Heights community to get to sustainably sized schools. Pimlico was early in that process, right? We made some closures that resulted in the original design for Pimlico, and most recently with the closure of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we put in place strong leaders, so we got Principal Barnett at Pimlico, but we also have like Monica McLean at Edgecombe. So there's strong leaders in place too to help with that. We've done, it's not 21st century, but we've done some building improvements within the Edgecombe facility. It's something we need to be mindful of, and because there's zones, there's certain levers we could do if we need to, in terms of saying no out of zone if we needed to do that or limit that in some sort of future scenario. But I think I think I kind of agree with Principal Barnett. It's something we need to continue to watch.
And we don't, none of our schools try to recruit from outside their enrollment zone. We commit to not sending in materials or advertising other than to our own enrollment zone, because we want to good partners and support other schools in our community.
Madam Chair, may I make a another question?
I just,
I can't hear you.
Dr. Brooks, Madam
I'm
Chair, you're
sorry.
muted.
Commissioner Brooks, I was on mute. I apologize. Commissioner Brooks, and then back to Commissioner Bondima.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. One, I'm really enheartened to hear Ms. Barnett, that you speak so highly of the Baltimore Curriculums Project work, and I've heard great things from my nephew who was at Govans just a few years back. And so I can attest to sort of some of the changes, particularly in culture and climate, that my sister gave an account for there. And so one, taking that same spirit, and I know that moving into sort of this particular environment, I think the transition might have been a little bit challenging. So if you could talk to me a little bit about the restorative justice and specifically how you see that aligning with the academic outcomes and the curriculum that you have in place. What does that look like for you all? And then two, specifically, one of my passion areas is always looking about how do we support our LGBT students? And so, and I think that might tie into either the restorative practices or just trying to be different and affirming culture. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections on that.
Yes, hi. So first with the restorative practices, I mean, as social emotional learning is critical to any learning period. So that's, we start even now with our virtual world, the teachers have some type of circle restorative practice lesson, because that's what's going to bring the students in. As I express every time I talk to the staff, that if not now, even more, we have to really be sensitive to what's going on with our students, watching, listening, and everything. So the curriculum, to me, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. We are reaching our students. We are reaching them not just with the regular, language arts and everything. It's about life. We have to feel them. They have to feel us. We need to have that mutual respect for each other. So the teachers have embraced that. That was one of the things that coming to Pimlico, that it was non-negotiable even before I knew about BCP. So when BCP came, it just went hand in hand when we started having the trainings for the teachers. So they did actually start last year with having the circles every morning. We didn't get far into curriculum. It was just the beginnings of it. So it is going to go hand in hand. Before the pandemic ended, we were actually going to have students trained. So they would have been leaders for restorative practices. And that's the vision that I see, where students are facilitating circles. They're between students. Yep. They're able to diffuse situations, because that's what it's about. That's learning your skills, how to get along, how to problem solve. So that is where we are headed, and where I would like the school to go. Going down to LGBT, I was talking earlier about the clubs. I never want any child to feel like they can't fit in anywhere, because that's not how it should be. So I want to have more of the clubs. I think they were informal clubs, but I really want to have clubs where it's organized with a teacher after school, where there's topics, where they have trips, everything. I mean, there should be all kinds of clubs, all kinds of interests. I have zero tolerance when it comes to bullying. Students know that. So I try to diffuse any type of anyone being discriminated against. And it's always, we're a family. Even with the first day of school last year when we merged with Arlington, we had to talk, so you're Arlington, you're Pimlico. I stopped, I had everyone come, all the middle school come into the auditorium. I said, we're gonna shut this down now. I said, we are all Pimlico. I don't wanna hear anything else about it. If I do, it's coming to me. Like, this is who we are. We're family. Where we come from, yes, we embrace that and everything like that. But we're family in here. And we all need to understand we're family no matter what, and family takes care of each other. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Yes.
If I could,
You're muted again, John.
I don't know why.
You're still
My
on mute.
apologies. It keeps muting me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll try to keep my hands away from the computer. This summer, BCP put together some committees in response to the current situation, not only the pandemic, but the situation with regard to race and social justice in the country. And we've mandated, informally, we've been doing this for many years, but we mandated for all of our current schools that they work on equity, anti-racism, social justice issues on a continuous basis and in a formal way. And those activities and investigations and discussions have started at all 5 of our schools. We have some action steps connected to that, and that means we review school policies, the curriculum. We want to look at creating student support groups, provide professional development to the staff on equity, social justice, anti-racism, anti-harassment. We certainly want to provide opportunities for parents to discuss these things, because parent support around these areas is fundamental. We'll partner with neighborhood groups, local groups. We're going to continue to educate ourselves and others. We'll create assemblies and speaker programs around these issues. This is something we've taken seriously at BCP for many years, and events of the last 6 months have forced us to be more formal and official in how we address them.
Great, thank you so much for that.
Commissioner Bondima?
Thank you, Chairperson. This is a continuation of the question that I had in the beginning. Having a diverse board is critical for the success of the school. Have you selected or have you invited board members, or do you already have a board from that's already in place?
We have a board that's already in place. We have representation from parents from our various schools, and we also made a commitment to recruiting and putting on our board someone from the Park Heights community. So I think your suggestion of somebody from a college is great, and we will also commit to putting on either a parent or a community member from the Park Heights community on our board.
I really would suggest, in addition to that, is the business community, and when I say diverse, I mean from across across the community. So they're already in place, in other words.
We have about a 22-member board right now that started. Some of the members have been on since 2005, but we're always a few go off, but we're always assessing our needs. And when we do bring on a new school, last school was Frederick, and Councilman Bullock, who represents that area, joined our board, as well as a doctor from St. Agnes. So we definitely want to include community members from all of our schools.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't see other hands. Any other questions from board members? Okay, if not, Ms. Alvarez, I'm gonna turn it back to you as to next steps.
Yep. So our next step is the vote, which will be on October 27th. So, between now and then, the board will be deliberating based on, reviewing the materials, the application, supplemental materials, supplemental questions, and the recommendations and the report. And we'll come back on the 27th for an official vote and decision on the school. If the board approves, because this is not our normal cycle, normally we do this in the March to June window, and so now we're in an unusual cycle due to the pandemic. It just delayed our start of this process. So if you approve, then immediately they begin that planning work and would convert to charter status in the fall of 21. So this year would continue to be a planning year for them, and it's in the fall of 21 where the status would change.
Okay. And just a reminder to board members that all of the documents and things have been posted. If you have additional questions, please be certain that you send them so that we can, if we need to get further, answers to them before our vote in October, there's still time to do that. If there are no other questions and we know what's happening next, I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Principal. Now Barnett is your new name is Principal. Did I get it right?
Warren.
Is it Warren?
Yes, ma'am. Warren.
Okay. All right. I want to get the right name.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
you.
you to the folks from the curriculum project. You have been great partners, and we know that in all of our other schools. Thank you to our parents and to the Park Heights Renaissance and the rest of the community and everyone who is here this evening. This will end our work session, and just as the reminder that the board will be voting on this recommendation at our last October session.
Thank you,
Have a good
Commissioner.
evening, everybody.
Thank you all. Please
Have a good evening. Thank you.
and good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.